Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. We're going to talk about basic trigonometry in this video. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to just list the subtopics that we're going to talk about. But before I proceed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you've not clicked the notification bell, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please do so that when I post new videos, you will be the first person to know. So in this video series, we will have about, I think, around 11 subtopics. I'm going to talk about the circle, the sector, the arc, talk about Pythagoras theorem, talk about the trig ratios, area of a triangle, and the rest of it. So this is the video or the video series you need to know before you go to the advanced trigonometry. All right. So I'm going to just list it here, the subtopics. Then in the subsequent videos, I'm going to then start dealing with them one after the other. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, okay, the first topic I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about circles, the concept of circles. I'm going to talk about the concept of what is the difference between a circle and a sector and an arc. So in some question, you will see that you'll be asked to find maybe the area of a circle, the area of a sector, or find the length of an arc. So it depends. So you know what you're meant to find. Then after that, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to introduce the concept of Pythagoras theorem. All right. So this is talking about in a right angle triangle, how do you solve those questions? So Pythagoras theorem. Then I'm going to introduce the third one will be the trig ratios of right angle triangle. During this time, I'm going to talk about things like SOHCAHTOA, where the sine is the opposite of a hypotenuse, the cosine adjacent of a hypotenuse, and the tan is opposite of a adjacent. So I'm going to talk about that in this topic. So trigonometric ratios. Okay, in a right angle triangle. Okay. Then I will go to the next one where I will talk about how do you find area of a triangle. Okay. I'll talk about the area of a triangle. How do you find the area of a triangle? Okay. After which, the next thing I'll discuss, I'll talk about the graphs of a trig function. How do you find the graphs of a trig function? I'll discuss that as well. So we'll talk about the sine graph, we'll talk about the cosine graph, we'll talk about the tangent of an angle, okay? So we'll talk about graphs. Okay, we'll talk about. Then the next one I'm going to talk about how do we solve trig equations. So we're going to talk about solving trigonometric equations. So there'll be two things I will discuss here. I'm going to talk about the concept of how do you solve simple angles, okay? Then we'll talk about simple angles. Then I'm going to talk about multiple angles or so. So I'm going to show you how to solve simple angle questions. And I'll discuss as well, how do you solve multiple angles? Okay. Then after this, the next one I'm going to discuss, I will talk about the basic trig identities. Here, I will talk about things like how sine theta over cos theta is tan theta. Okay, so I'll talk about all those simple identities, like for instance, sine squared theta plus cos squared theta will be equal to 1. So those basic identities, I'm going to talk about them. So that'll be the seventh thing to talk about. So I'll talk about the basic trigonometric identities. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the basic trigonometry identities. All right. Then when we're done with that, the next thing I will talk about, I'm going to just quickly throw in the how to find the area and perimeter of shapes. So that's a very important one. So I'm going to talk about how do you find the area and perimeter of like a circle, maybe like a square, a rectangle, some of these basic 2D shapes, okay? So I'll talk about area of a square, how do you find area of a rectangle, and things like that. How do you get the area from a diagonal, or how do you get the area from a when only one side is given? So you're going to play around with things like the Pythagoras theorem we talked about, or the trig ratios as well. So we're going to talk about area and perimeter of shapes. Then when we're done with that, number 9, I'll introduce the sine rule. When do we use the sine rule? I'll talk about cosine rule, okay? I'll talk about the cosine rule. Then after that, I'm going to end it up with how do we now find the obtuse angle, okay? So how to calculate obtuse angle. Or let me say how to calculate possible obtuse angle in a triangle. Just delete this. How to calculate a possible. So because some of these triangles will have an obtuse angle, so that means the particular triangle can be written in different forms. So how do you calculate a possible obtuse angle in a triangle? Okay, how do you calculate a possible obtuse angle in a triangle? So we'll talk about that as well. So technically, these are the 11 things, subtopics we're going to discuss in this series. So as you can see, it's very important that you subscribe and click on the notification bell so that when I post these videos, you'll be the first person to know. So I'm going to start with the first one, the circus and sector and an arc. So we'll talk about the area of a sector, perimeter of a circle, and perimeter of an arc, or perimeter, or the length of an arc, the perimeter of a sector. How do you calculate it? So it's important that you click on the notification bell as well. All right, so that'll be that for that. So these are the 11 topics we're going to talk about: Pythagoras theorem, the trigonometric ratios in a right angle triangle, the area of a triangle, the graph of a trig function. How do you solve trigonometric equations? Okay, how do you go about that? We'll talk about that as well. So then the next thing I'll talk about under trig equations, the simple and multiple angles. I'll talk about the basic trig identities, and I'll talk about the areas and perimeter of a shape. So we'll talk about the sine rule, the cosine rule, and also talk about if a particular triangle has an obtuse angle, how do we use the sine rule and cosine rule to find the possible obtuse angle. All right, so that is that for that. So I'm gonna see you in the next video where we talk about the cycles or the circles, the sector, and an arc. Okay, so I'm gonna see you soon. I'll see you in the next video.